Hey guys, so I'm here with my March reading wrap up. I had quite a good reading month in March. I read 8 books and for the most part I really enjoyed the books that I read, so bonus. So yeah, I'll just hop right in. So the first book that I read was Hello Stranger by Elisa Kleypas. This is the 4th book in her Ravenels series, and this is or was one of my most anticipated releases of the entire year. As you guys know, I really got into Elisa Kleypas's books around October last year, and out of the books of hers that I've read, or are in the process of reading, the Ravenels series has been a standout favourite for me. So this was the 4th book. Fourth book. I want to say 4th book. I'll double check now. I'm doubting myself. 4th book. I was right. In that series. And like I say, I was so excited for it. I literally couldn't wait. I'd had it pre-ordered and everything, and then it turned up for a review, so I was like, yes! It turned up like a couple of days early. It made my day. So yeah, this is the 4th book, and it follows a woman called Garrett, who is England's first female doctor. And she studied in France, and since she's qualified, basically people have worked to stop other women becoming doctors, and so she faces a struggle basically of getting patients to go to her, but she's actually a very competent, very good doctor, and we actually meet her in the 2nd book in this series, so we've already been introduced to this character. And then the male character is Ethan, and he's a bit of a mysterious character because he seems to work for like Scotland Yard, but then he seems to also sort of work sort of more like spy type stuff. But these two meet in book 2 very briefly, and yeah, so we see them again in book 3 again very briefly, and now they have their own book, and I absolutely loved this book, guys, as a sort of Victorian historical romance book. It was absolutely fantastic. I love how sorry, I've got really bad acid reflux, not that you can tell at all. I love how Garrett is very practical, very straightforward, very scientific really, and Ethan, even though he's this spy, special agent type police guy, that's a really bad description, he's actually sort of got the heart and soul of a poet, and some of the things that he says to Garrett in this book, just like, oh, it's just so romantic. But even though Garrett's not unaffectionate, but he sort of brings that out in her, kind of, and it's just so good. Yeah, this series just goes from strength to strength for me. I cannot wait for the next book. I think there's going to be another 2 books in this, how I can see it panning out character wise. I think there's going to be another 2 books. So yeah, I'm really excited for the next book in this series. 5 out of 5, obviously. So the next book that I read was Charming Hannah by Kristen Proby. And this is the 1st book in her Big Sky series. It's the 1st book, but I think it's overlapping with another one of her series, which I think is called Love Under the Big Sky, because there's characters in this that are in that. So it seems to be the start of a new series, but has all the characters from another series. Doesn't make any sense to me, but whatever. So I really like Kristen Proby's books. They're sort of contemporary adult romances, and they're very sweet, and I devour them. My favourite series of hers is the Bordeaux series, which has unfortunately come to an end, which makes me sad. But yeah, this is the 1st book in her new series, and Hannah is like a gynecologist, but she actually has really bad like hypochondria and anxiety. She always, if she's got stomachache, she thinks she must have, cervical cancer. If she's got a headache, it must be a brain tumour. Like, she's very much like that, even though she's a doctor herself. And her sort of romance is with the chief of police, and it was very sweet. There didn't seem to be very much drama. It just seemed to tootle along, which was nice. There wasn't really any major issues or anything to really overcome or anything, but it was sweet, and I do look forward to seeing what else we get from this series. I'd probably sort of give it around the 4 out of 5 because I did enjoy reading it, and the chief of police is, I think, is his name Brad? I'm sure it's Brad. His dog Sadie is a total scene stealer. Loved her. The next book that I read was very short and sweet, and that was Romeo and Juliet by William Shakespeare with Eliza Garrett. I've read another one of these little books. I read Pugs and Prejudice. They're really just like humorous takes on classic novels, really, with replaced with animals. As you can see, they're I think they're just supposed to be taken, you know, in good fun, and they are. But I think these would make really good presents if you knew a cat lover that was also a Shakespeare lover, or, you know, like with Pugs and Prejudice, if you knew a Jane Austen fan that also loved dogs, you know, I think they make really cute presents. They are just amusing. As you know, books go, you know the story of Romeo and Juliet, they've just replaced it with cats, which was quite funny. So then the next 3 books that I read were all part of the same series, and they are the Rule of Scoundrels series by Sarah MacLean. As you guys can see, I'm still really massively into my historical romance genre right now. That's really just what I'm into reading. I have been reading, you know, a couple of other things, but I seem to be going back to Regency romance. It's just how it is at the moment. This is book 2, 3 and 4. I actually read the first book in this series, which is called A Rogue by Any Other Name. I read that, I think, a good few years ago, and I don't know why, but I just never picked the rest of the series up, and I've got absolutely no idea why. Like, I've had the second book since, is this January 2013? I think it was a review book. Yeah, 2013. Like, what the bloody hell am I doing? And I really like Sarah MacLean's books. Her Love by Numbers, is it trilogy? Yeah, trilogy is one of my all-time favourite Regency romance series. I absolutely fell in love with that. And I also have read the first book in her, what is it called? I can't think of what it's called. It's very similar to this, like something Scoundrels. It's something like that. And I've read the first book in that and really enjoyed it. So I don't know what has taken me so long to pick up the rest of this series. But once I picked up book 2, I was like, I'm going to finish this series because I'm into my Regency romance. I'm going to get this series finished. And that's what I did. So the first one that I read was One Good Earl Deserves a Lover. This one, and I really enjoyed this one. Lady Philippa Marbury, she's a bit of an oddball. She wears her spectacles. All she's interested in is science, particularly I can't say the word. Oh my god, I can't say the word. It's the word I can't say. Horticulture? Flowers, basically. Flowers. But she's interested in all aspects of science and also anatomy. And she's due to be married, and she's basically freaking out because she doesn't actually know what to expect on her wedding night, and she's freaking out about it because she feels like she should know. So she approaches Cross, who is one of the owners of the Fallen Angel, which is this huge gambling hell, and she basically says, I want you to teach me what I need to know, which he basically tries to put her off at every turn. But it was really good. I loved Philippa. I thought she was just such a quirky character, and I love that Cross kind of can't resist her because she's just so different. And that sounds really cliche, but she really is different to all the other women around her, and he's really her match for intellect, because he's into all the same things that she is, and they can actually talk about those things. And even though he knows she's different, he doesn't treat her as if she's odd. He seems to appreciate the oddness, if that makes sense. Really, really, really good. I'd probably say 4.5 out of 5. And then the next book is No Good Duke Goes Unpunished. This one I really, really, really enjoyed. Again, I'd probably give this one 4.5 out of 5. This was a really different kind of plotline from what I have personally read in other Regency romances. Like, I've just not read anything with quite the same storyline. So Mara, when she is 16, is due to marry a man that's about 3-4 times her age, and her father is quite abusive and violent and just horrible, and he actually killed her mother. And she's marrying one of his friends, basically, and she thinks, is he going to be exactly the same as her father? So she plans the night before her wedding night to run away, but she wants to make it look as if she's been ruined. But what she doesn't realise is she's accidentally framed the man she's supposed to be marrying. She's framed his son for her murder, so everyone thinks that she's been killed, basically. And years down the line she returns, and he's set to basically destroy her. He wants to show the world what she did, and basically she's going to be destroyed. But as they go through, obviously things change. But I love how really till not quite near the end, but quite far through this, he's set on destroying her, but you can kind of see that he doesn't want to, if that makes sense. But anyway, I would highly recommend checking that one out. And the last book in that series is Never Judge a Lady by Her Cover. I don't want to ruin this book for anybody, because if you read the series as it goes on, it's quite interesting, this 4th book, so I don't want to spoil it. It wasn't my favourite in the series. I would probably give it, I don't know, just the 4. It wasn't my favourite, but I did still enjoy it. But out of the 4, this one was not my favourite. The next book that I read was His Shy Librarian by Mia Madison, I think it is. This is quite a short book, and I wish that it had been more fleshed out, because as I was reading it, I couldn't help but think there was potential for this book, but it was just kind of flat. It's about a young woman called Carrie. She's like 21, and she works in a university library, and she has a crush on one of the professors there, Richard, I think his name is, and yeah, she has this huge crush on him. Little does she know that he also fancies her back, but I think he's like 40 something, but he fancies her back, and you know, it goes through that they find out that they both like each other, and it's supposed to be like sexy, but it wasn't really. And her dad is actually the dean of this university, and when they come out to him and say, you know, we're seeing each other, there wasn't really any conflict or drama. Now, I don't know about you, but I would have thought, you know, a guy that's dean of a university, if one of his professors who is his age is then sleeping with his daughter, I would have thought there would have been some kind of drama. Even her mother is like all excited, she runs and gets champagne. Like, it just didn't ring very true. And that was my biggest problem. I feel like the potential was there for actually a really good story, and there just kind of wasn't. So I'd probably say 1.5 out of 5 for that one. And then the last book that I read was Before Jamaica Lane by Samantha Young. This is the 3rd book in her On Dublin Street series. It's quite funny because I read this series kind of out of order because they're there. And I was actually sent, I think, book 4 for review at one point. So yeah, I kind of have read them out of order. So I've finally gone back and read book 3, and I really enjoyed this, and I'm glad that I finished the series. I did enjoy it, so I'd probably give it 4 out of 5. It's about Olivia and Nate. Nate is just a man whore, total man whore, which is not my favourite thing in a character. I don't really appreciate the man whore character. And Liv is completely the opposite. She is quite... She has a lot of insecurities, and after a bad like when she lost her virginity, basically wasn't the greatest experience, and she has no confidence. So she approaches Nate, who is they're very good friends, they hang out. She asks him to teach her how to be confident because she fancies this guy at the library, so he offers to, and obviously things escalate and go from there. I did really enjoy it, and I have enjoyed seeing their characters in the other books as well. But out of this series, I would say it's probably not my favourite. I think my favourite in the series remains number 1, which is there, which is on Dublin Street. So yeah, that's everything I read this month. I can't speak. Read this month, guys. Jeez, I've been doing that a lot lately, getting my words in the wrong order. Yeah, so if you've read any of these books, let me know in the comments down below. Also, if I've added any of these books to your wish list, also let me know. So yeah, thanks so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you all soon. Happy reading.